As a formal impeachment inquiry moves forward in the House, a bipartisan effort is also underway by the Senate Intelligence Committee looking into the Ukraine whistleblower complaint. In a closed-door meeting on Thursday, the committee heard from the Intelligence Community Inspector General and the Director of National Intelligence. And according to the committee's Republican chairman, Richard Burr of North Carolina, interviews will continue to be conducted as part of an ongoing inquiry, not an investigation. Joining me now is a Democratic Senator, Michael Bennet of Colorado. He's a member of the Senate Intelligence Committee and a 2020 presidential candidate. Senator, thank you for being with us. Before I go to the presidential, thank you again for being here. Before I go to the presidential race, let me ask you, what can you share with us about the Senate Intelligence Committee hearing from these two this week, maybe in terms of the tone, or maybe whether or not you felt that there was reason for more alarm than we might have expected?
Well, I can't talk about what we heard, but I can tell you that the committee, the Intelligence Committee in the Senate, is beginning this inquiry in a very serious-minded way. Almost everybody on the committee, I think, sees it as our responsibility to try, in a bipartisan way, to get the facts as they are and build towards some sort of decision and get prepared. We have a lot of responsibility for the rest of the Senate, who isn't entitled to listen to this intelligence yet, so it's our opportunity to do that. And I think the tone was one of seriousness and an understanding that we have a responsibility to the Senate and to the nation to do this properly. Now,
if the House of Representatives does vote to impeach and sends it to the Senate, one, is it your feeling that there are some of your colleagues on the Republican side, if there are serious enough charges, that may not support the president in this? And secondly, do you think there's even the possibility that Mitch McConnell will try and not hold a Senate trial?
On the first part, I'd say I think it is possible that there are Republican senators, if they conclude that the evidence supports conviction, that in the end they might be willing to vote to convict. I know that sounds far-fetched to a lot of people, but I think we have to see how it plays out in the House and then reach our decisions. The second part, I think it is possible that Mitch McConnell might try to keep it off the floor the way that he kept Merrick Garland off the floor all those many months. You know, he should never have been allowed to do that with Garland, and he shouldn't be allowed to do this here. If he is allowed to do this here, you know, I think one should ask, what is left of our democratic institutions in Washington, D.C.? And it's going to be the American people, I think, who are going to make their will known here. And one way or another, I think McConnell, in the end, is going to have to respond to that. But we believe that would happen with Merrick Garland, and it didn't happen, which is a reminder to all of us that, how much harder we're going to have to push here.
So if Mitch McConnell does the Merrick Garland Act that he did that successfully stalled a Supreme Court justice from being put before the Senate and confirmed or not confirmed, being nominated by President Obama, if he does this time, do you think the American public will then punish Republicans in the Senate at the polls if they don't stand up and demand a trial?
I absolutely do, if they believe that a trial is in order. I mean, I don't want to jump to conclusions here about any of this because it's so early, although we do have a series of interactions that the president has had with foreign leaders that he has actually confessed to, that he's proud to have said that he was engaged in. I think it's going to turn out that those are the behaviors that the American people won't stand for. But we have to go through a process. The House has to go through its impeachment process, and we need to bring the American people along. That's the other thing, Rev. I was thinking about this morning. about my kids. You know, you remember back to Watergate. That was a dark period in American history because we had Watergate going on and we had the Vietnam War going on. But on the other hand, it turned out to be an incredible moment for American democracy because our leadership came together, and instead of having partisan squabbles in D.C. that disgrace everybody, they did their work. You know, people like Howard Baker and others came together, put the country's interests ahead of our political interests, even at a terrible, terrible time in American history. Maybe this is one of those opportunities, too, when we can begin to rebuild and restore our democracy.
Now, I'm in Cleveland, Ohio today, when there's been a weekend of meetings of National Action Network's Midwest leadership and activists from several states. The concern is that will the Democratic primaries, the debates, the presidential primaries that you are a candidate, will they be so into the impeachment that they also will not give the proper attention and give the proper policies and in the Congress the right move on legislations around health care and around the economy and around criminal justice? Can the Democrats and the Democratic candidates show that they can walk and chew gum at the same time?
That's what I was just going to say. We're going to have to walk and chew gum at the same time, and it's going to require a better game from everybody. We're going to have to make sure that the American people know that we're not politicizing this impeachment for, you know, political gain or political purposes, and we're going to have to continue to be focused on the issue of, you know, an economy where 90% of Americans haven't seen a pay raise over the last 40 years, but they can't afford housing, health care, higher education, or early childhood education. The mass incarceration that you just mentioned, or you said you're in Cleveland, the state of our urban school districts in this country. These things need to continue to be front and center as we work our way through the work that we've got to do in Washington. And some people, and that's what we got to do, Rev. We just got to find a way to do both at the same time.
Now, Senator Cory Booker announced today that he's brought in enough contributors to make the November debate. He'd already qualified for the debate October 15th. You've not qualified for the October 15th or November debate. He had set a marker saying that if he didn't get a certain amount by a certain time, he'd pull out of the race. Are you saying that you have set a mark that would lead to your pulling out, or are you in this no matter what?
I'm staying in it, Rev. I think we need more voices. I'm concerned about, you know, some of the positions that some of the leading candidates have taken that I think are going to make it very hard for us to win purple states, that are going to allow us to win the presidency and the Senate as well, and send Mitch McConnell back to Kentucky. You know, and where I am on health care, on climate, on the economy, I think is where mainstream Democratic voters are. And I believe our job is to not just consolidate our base, but also go after the 9 million people that voted twice for Barack Obama and once for Donald Trump. If I get to a point in this race where I think there's no shot for me to win, I won't keep running. But I don't think we're there. And I'm, by the way, very glad Cory Booker made the debate stage. He's a good friend of mine, and I think his voice is really important to this debate.
All right, but I've got to go. But you're saying that there's some policies by some of your opponents that you think will not be good in a general election if they are the nominee.
Right. Let me give you one quick example. I think we can finish the job with the Affordable Care Act by having a public option cover everybody in 3 years. I think that's a lot better idea than spending a 10-year battle trying to put Medicare for all in, which I don't think the American people are going to accept, and I don't think it's going to allow us to win purple seats.
All right, Senator Bennet,
All right.
Thank you for being with us.
Thanks, Rev. Thank you.